Hey guys, this is Dr. Mcfarland, and you are looking at the first session of many that is going to make up what I call Daw Wars. And what this is going to be is I'm going to mix one song, but in 4 different DAWs. So the 4 I have is Reaper, Mixbus32c, PreSonus Studio One, and Logic Pro 10. So without further ado, this is Who I Am by Uncle Dad. I downloaded these multi-tracks from the Telefunken website, which I will leave a link down below so you can grab the tracks yourself and practice along. And here we go. Now, if you're not familiar with 32C, what you see in front of you is the mixer view. And the beauty of this mixer is you have an EQ, sends, and compression section all right there in front of you. So if you want to grab an EQ and start tweaking knobs or adjust a compression level, or send some tracks over to some different buses for either, grouping tracks together or sending certain tracks to different effects, then you can totally do that. And here is what the buses look like. We have 1 through 12, and there is a matrix mix, which allows you to send 1 through 8 to the last 9 through 12 mixed buses. Now I'm going to try my best to use the EQ and compression on the channel strip itself. But if I feel like I want to use a plugin, then I'm going to go ahead and use a Harrison plugin. Just like if I were in Reaper, I would use the stock Reaper plugins or the stock Studio One plugins or the stock Logic plugins. So what we're going to do is press play, and we're going to do a little bit of routing and some top-down mixing first, and then we can go into the individual tracks and see what we can do to get this thing whipped into shape, okay? All right, so I set my clock to an hour. And here we go. All right, so let's look at what we have here so far. What I've done is already made some groups and I color coded the tracks because this was the first song that I did for my Studio Live mix sessions. And you saw that video on YouTube just a few days ago. So what we're going to do is just press play, and I'm going to show you my workflow and thought process on how to gain stage and make sure these tracks are not getting too loud. And then we can go from there, okay? So let's go over to the mixer view and press play. Okay, notice we don't hear any vocal, or it's very low in the mix. And also notice in the K14 meter that we are getting a little too far into the red and that the limiter is working a little too hard as well. So what we can do is we can bring the trim input down, and the trim shows up very first in the signal path. So even though it's down here above the fader, just know that in the signal path it is very first on the very top of the signal chain there. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that down before we start moving faders, and then that'll just help us to be in a more reasonable level. So I kind of want to keep it below the 0 mark here. So we can bring it down about 8 dB or so. All right, let's solo out these drums here, and they all solo at the same time because they're in a group, and I'll show you very similar conventions in the other 3 DAWs when we get to those videos. But let's just go ahead and check out the drums real fast. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a good spot, probably about right here, and we're just going to loop it. Okay, they really sound pretty decent. So let's go on to the bass. Turn on my headphones a little bit. All right, it's not too bad. Let's turn on the pianos. All right, now the problem with the acoustic guitars here, there's essentially 3 or 4 different variations. So we have a different part here, but these 2 parts are pretty much the same. They're just using different microphones, or at least I think. So let's listen to these 2 individually here. Okay, then let's listen to these 2. Okay, so they are different parts. So that is my mistake. I kind of just quickly grouped these together. Let's change the name of this edit group. Guitar, and we'll make it kind of like a limeish green. All right, that works. All right, so now with that said, let's bring in the acoustics here. So this one has more of a higher sound, which I like. Okay, let's loop this little section here. And what I'm doing is I'm using the range tool that is special about Mixbus, and I'm pressing the right bracket, and that's going to make our loop points, and then I'm pressing L. Okay. So that has more of a lead guitar kind of thing. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. Let's go ahead and rough in this banjo. Sounds really good. Dobro. Let's go back to, let's listen to this section for the dobro here. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this loop just by selecting it and then pressing delete. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do something that's very, very cool to Mixbus. And we have 12 mix buses. And you're thinking, Nathan, why only 12? Why can't we have like 100 or 5 or whatever we want? Well, the goal of Mixbus is to give you certain tools right there in front of you, just like a regular console. And I mean, I hate to say it, but some consoles only come with 8 buses, and Mixbus is giving you 12. So what we're going to do here is, I kind of have this memorized by now because I do use this DAW all the time. Mixbus 1 is my drums. Okay, so what we're going to do is go over and we're going to select Mixbus 1. You can see it selects all the drums and it sends it to Mixbus 1. Okay. Now I'm also going to take these out of the master. And you'll see me do this in the other DAWs as well, Reaper, Studio One, and Logic. Because what is happening here is you do not want to send a track to 2 separate places in the mix. So you don't want to send it to a mix bus and then also send it to the master, because now you're doubling up. And whenever you double a sound, it gets 6 dB louder. Or maybe it's 3 dB. I think it's 6 dB or something like that. So just know that it gets louder. You can hear that right now. If I solo these up, So they get louder, then they get softer. So that just means we're not sending the signal to two different places. So that's great. Let's move on to the bass guitar now. And bass usually goes to Mixbus 3. Okay. Now there's a little secret here for Mixbus. If you hold down Command or Control on a PC, then you will simultaneously send it to Mixbus that you want, and it'll also take it out of the master. So that makes things really fast. Mixbus 4 is usually for guitars, but I got a piano right here. So piano is usually 5 for me. Any kind of piano, organs, stuff like that. And then if we have maybe like a string section or something special like that, I'll send that to Mixbus 6. But in this case, 5 is still going to be piano. And then we have our guitars next. So let's go ahead and deal with those. And guitars are all these guitars are going to 4. Okay. Just like that. And then we're going to have banjo, dobro, and fiddle, and mandolin are all going to go to Mixbus 6. So I know I said those were for strings, and these are technically strings, right? They don't have to be a cello or a violin or a synth or something like that. They can just be whatever I want it to be. So special type stuff are going to Mixbus 6. And I like that. Makes it really easy. And then mandolins going to 6. And then background vocals are always 7. And then lead vocals are always 8. And then usually Mixbus 9, 10, 11, and 12 are going to be something like different delays, different reverbs, maybe a chorusy kind of micro pitch kind of sound for a special effect. Just whatever I want on those last 4 mix buses, that's what I'll use for that. So now, I'm going to press play again. Let's go back to the start. And you're going to see the mix buses start to get some level going through it, which is cool.
When we pray, we close our eyes, pull to the side of the road.
Okay, so the vocal is still a little low in the mix. So what I'm going to do in this particular point is I'm going to use the trim knob and just bring that up until it's a reasonable level. Because I don't really want to touch the fader, like bring it all the way up like that. But if it's not loud enough to get over the rest of the tracks, then we probably just need to raise it up. And thankfully, Mixbus has a trim knob right on the channel itself, so that's great. We don't have to use like clip gain or anything like that. And if we look at the waveform, I mean, the waveform is pretty chunky. You know, there's some good volume there. It's just not getting over all the other stuff. Because maybe, you know, the guitars are a little loud or something, or whatever the case is. So that's what we're going to use the trim knob for. So let's check it out again.
Funeral drives by. We don't move until it's done. That's who I am and where I'm from.
Okay, so it's getting out above everything.
Up in the morning for the break of day, put in a hard day's work to earn our way. Tuck the babies in the bed when the bedtime comes, and that's who I am and where I'm from. It's still
Okay, that's pretty good. What we're going to do now is I need to put in some location markers for this song so I kind of know where I'm at. So let's put our cursor here and press tab. And you're going to see me, do this a lot in the different DAWs. And each DAW has its own way of like inserting, markers and doing a bunch of different stuff. So it's going to be fun memorizing all those different ways of doing the same exact thing. So this is going to be called intro. Okay. Then let's see, the vocal comes in here. So this is going to be where the vocal is, or the verse. Verse 1. And there should be a way to automatically name the marker when it comes up, but that's in preferences somewhere, and I don't want to mess with it right this second. But just know that it's like, man, it's a little tedious, but it's just the way it is.
Up in the morning for.
Okay, so this is kind of like a verse 2. So right click, rename. And this is going to be.
Kids still play.
Okay, put it right here. This is going to be a chorus. And let's see what we got.
Neighbors are just where I'm from.
Okay, now if you don't know stuff about songwriting and song arrangement, this little section right after the first chorus but before the next verse is called a turnaround. Okay, some people call it like another intro or whatever, but whenever there's just a section with no singing, that is usually after like a big section of the song, like a chorus, then that's always going to be a turnaround, and I just put TA in there for that. So we're doing a little bit of a songwriting lesson here. So okay, so the vocal comes in here, and we're going to put in another verse. So this is technically, I guess, verse 3. Or you could say there's really, this whole section is verse 1, but it's just like 2 halves. I don't know. It is what it is. So let's keep going. Okay, so right here, this is going to be another chorus. Chorus 3. Chorus 2. And then I can use my scroll over here a little bit. See what we got here.
That's who I am, where I'm from.
Coming up at the end of the chorus. Okay, so about right here is going to be another turnaround. Move forward. And then we got another chorus here. What is this? Chorus 3. Okay.
That's who I am, where I'm from. That's who I am, where I'm from.
Ba-da-da-da.
Who I am, where I'm from.
Okay, now this right here, they call it a tag in songwriting, where you're kind of tagging the last line of the song like multiple times. So we're just going to call this whole section right here, this whole section, all the way down. I don't know why I just did that. That's going to be the tag, and then we're going to have the outro. Okay. All right, so about right there. Should be fine. This just allows us to jump around the session a lot faster. So we have an intro at the beginning, and I'm using Q and W to go between different sections of the song. Okay, enter is always taking you back to the start, and then W is going to forward you through the song, and then Q is going to take you back through the different markers like that. Okay, Q and W if you're playing along at home. All right, so let's see what happens if we just play from the verse.
When we pray, we close our eyes, pull to the side of the road when a funeral drives by. We don't move until
Okay, that sounds good. Let's do the drums. Okay, so for fun, let's do some top-down mixing, which means that once you bus your tracks to like a bus or a folder or whatever your DAW calls it, so we are applying EQ compression to the overall group of tracks and not just individual tracks. So for me, I want to hear a little bit of some more snap coming out of these drums. And let's see what we can do here. We got drum character stereo. So let's show you this drum character plugin, which is kind of cool. We want to make sure that any kind of plugin, it goes before the fader. Now, some DAWs don't really allow you to choose between before or after the fader, but Mixbus is really great about doing it that way. Let's go back to the chorus, the big part of the song. Hear how we can kind of bring out some top end, maybe. Bring out some low end of that kick. That's pretty good. Okay, let's listen.
Go to church and learn about God's Son. That's who I am and where I'm from.
So it's really cool how it just brought out enough, just punch and everything from that. Let's see if we can apply a little bit of compression to these drums here. Back to the chorus.
It still play out in the yard.
We're going to use a leveler.
Everybody knows who their neighbors are. Just a dot on the map.
Actually, we can use the limiter on this.
Runs. That's who I am, where I'm from. That's who I am, where I'm from.
Each LED is 1 dB of gain reduction here. So I'm going to bring this up about 2 dB.
Stay out till the sidewalks are rolled up tight. Go to church and learn about God's
So this has a really fast
Son.
attack,
Who
and I can change the release
where
time.
I'm from. The fire department's all volunteers, the law still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, cool. Let's see what we can do with the piano on 5.
Everybody knows who their neighbors are. Just a dot on the map where the highway runs.
Okay, let's go to our pianos. Another cool feature about Mixbus is the spill feature here. So I click on spill, and it only shows me the tracks that are being sent to that bus. So that's really cool. Let's go ahead and pan these out far left and right. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we can find some spots that have a little busier stuff going on. Let's go through here. Okay, let's bring in another plug-in. And yes, I'm still doing stock type stuff. So the XT plugins all come with Mixbus, but you do have to buy a license for those. But what I'm going to do is probably use an EQ. Let's use this equalizer here. I know this looks a little weird, but it's supposed to have the lowest amount of phasing among the different bands. Gonna bring up some bass there a little bit. Okay, make sure we put this EQ before the fader. And then let's go ahead and get to the vocal here.
Fire department's all volunteers, the law still pretty
We're going to use a
much
leveler on this
upheld
vocal,
around here. Just a dot
which
on
is
a
very
map
similar to the
where
LA2A
highway
style of compression.
runs. That's who I am and where I'm
just
from.
bringing up the
That's
makeup gain
who
according
I
to
am
how
and
many
where I'm from.
LEDs of gain reduction we have.
Fire department's all volunteers lost.
Okay, let's bring in a reverb now. Reverb. Okay, put on a large room. And then what we can do is, since we have this matrix mix, we can send Mixbus 8 directly to Mixbus 12 just by clicking this button. Then we can adjust the send right here. So check this out.
Still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs. And that's who I am and where I'm from.
I'm going to adjust the
who I am
frequency response of this reverb.
Fire department's all volunteers lost. Still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs. And that's who I am and where I'm from. That's who I am and where I'm from.
Sounds pretty good. Let's spill this out. So each track has its own 32C EQ, which comprises of the filter section, which is high and low pass filters. Then you have 4 different bands. The top and the bottom band can either be a band or a shelf. And then the middle 2 are mid-range bands. And what's cool about the 32C EQ is it has a proportional Q. So the higher you bring this up, the higher you bring the gain up, the shallower or narrower that the EQ looks. Okay, and if you bring it down, same applies. So if you just bring it down a little bit or bring it up a little bit, it's going to be very wide and affect a wide range of frequencies. And then just the higher you bring that up, the smaller amount of frequencies is going to affect. So we can usually bring that up. Something like that, maybe. Okay, let's pan these a little bit here. Banjo is going to be off to the right. Let's add some top end to this banjo. It's kind of some Christmas there. Okay, let's bring this reverb over to Mixbus 11. And let's say Mixbus 12 is our vocals, and then Mixbus 11 is going to be our instrument reverb. It doesn't have to be 2 separate ones, but sometimes you want a separate reverb for the vocal versus the instruments. So let's just bring in maybe a fast plate for the instruments. We can kind of mess around with it. Maybe even a small room. Let's try that out first, okay? And I'm going to want different levels of reverb for this. So there we go. Cool. Just enough space in there. Yeah, I like that.
I'm from, that's who I am and where I'm from. Fire departments all volunteers, law still pretty much up.
I mean, the bad thing about this song and the good thing is the tracks already sound great. I mean, so I really don't have to do a whole lot to this thing to make it sound good because it just already sounds good. So all we can really do is just go through and maybe balance out some different stuff. So let's listen to the verse 1. And notice we have little fills here. So we may want to bring those up or down depending on what's going on in the song. So let's concentrate on the little spots like that, and then we'll just listen back through one more time, listen for any kind of thing that needs to be fixed, and we'll call it good. Then we'll go on to another Daw. Okay, here we go.
When we pray, we close our eyes, pull to the side of the road when a funeral drives by. We don't move
Dobro sounded good there.
it's done. That's who I am and where I'm from. Up in the morning for the break of day, put in a hard day's work to earn our way. Tuck the babies in the bed when the bedtime comes, and that's who I am.
Okay, that one right there could be a little bit louder. So another cool thing about Mixbus is the range tool can also be used to raise or lower the waveform. So if you make your range, then press D, that's going to bring up a gain line in the region, and then we can just use the pencil to move this up a little bit. So we'll move it up about 3 dB or so. Press G to go back to our grab mode. This is all based off of the smart mode up here. And then let's listen.
Bed when the bedtime comes, and that's who I am and where I'm.
Okay, so what I'm seeing right here is maybe the first little part was maybe a little too loud. So let's bring that back down and then have the last section of it be what is being brought up. Okay.
Time comes, and that's who I am
that's
and
fine.
where I'm from. Kids still play out in the yard. Everybody knows who their neighbors are. Just a dot on the map where the highway runs. That's who I am and where I'm from. That's who I am and where I'm from. I'd have a little drink on Saturday night, stay out.
Okay, something here is sticking out, and it's not horrible, but let's just see if the balance right here can be a little bit better. And I'm essentially with this gain thing, I'm essentially automating different sections up or down. That's really all you can do. If you hear something, ask yourself, does it need to be louder or does it need to be softer? Does it need to be panned to the left or panned to the right? I mean, there's really only so many things that you can do to the audio to make it sit where you want in the mix.
That's who I am and where I'm from. Have a little drink.
Okay.
I'd have
All right, so I feel like this dobro is a little loud. And another thing about this gain, it is a pre-fader gain. So it's not like I'm moving the master volume or the main fader on the track. I'm just bringing down the gain a little bit before it hits like any compression or anything like that. So if you prefer to use fader automation, then that's a slightly different thing. But this is pretty much gain, like pre-fader gain automation right now. So
Who I am and where I'm from. I'd have a little
That's pretty
drink
good.
on Saturday night. Stay out till the sidewalks.
all right, now notice that the first verse section had more of a dobro kind of feel, and now we are in the fiddle kind of feel. So let's see if these are a good volume for us or not.
I'd have a little drink on Saturday night. Stay out till the sidewalk.
Okay, I think these are going to be a little too loud. So let's just bring them down, maybe 4 dB or so.
On Saturday night, stay out till the sidewalks are rolled up tight. Go to church and learn about.
All right, now this one right here is playing over a vocal. So it is a little soft. I mean, it was a little loud before. So I'm just going to bring that down. But this one right here is essentially playing at the tail end of a vocal. So I could probably stand to bring this one back up just a bit, like so. Let me bring it like that, okay? Let's try that.
I'd have a little drink on Saturday night. Stay out till the sidewalks are rolled up tight. Go to church and learn about God's Son. That's who I am and where I'm from. The fire department's all volunteers, all still pretty. Dot on a map.
I want to make sure I hear this mandolin stuff through here. So I'm going to bring this up just a few dB.
The fire department's all volunteers, all still pretty. The fire department's all volunteers, all still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs. That's who I am, where I'm from. That's who I am, where I'm from. Kids still play out in the yard. Everybody knows who their neighbors are. Just a dot on the map where the highway runs. That's who I am, where.
Okay, this little mandolin part right here can be a little bit louder. And when I get done listening to this section, I'm going to go back to our buses and just do a little bit of more compressing on the overall stringed instruments section here.
That's who I am, where I'm from. That's who I am, where I'm from. It's who I am, where I'm from.
All right, I can hear something right now that I think should be addressed. We got some pretty loud cymbals going on.
Where I'm from.
Okay, so what we're going to do is go to our drums, and then we have toms. These are our overhead tracks right here. I'm going to go ahead and hold down shift to bypass the group momentarily. I'm just going to bring these down a little bit. And I'm also going to bring down the leveler of this section and see if we can just kind of tame some of those cymbal hits. Okay, We can even adjust the tack time a little bit, like so. So let's go back to the chorus.
Play out in the yard, everybody know. That's who I am, where I'm from. That's who I am, where I'm from. It's who I am, where I'm from.
All right, we got some room mics going on here at the end. Let's see if one of these room mics is giving us some trouble on these cymbals here. A lot of cymbaling going on. Let's make a loop.
I am where.
Okay, not too bad. But I'm gonna bring down these room mics a little bit. And what we can do also is kind of bring down the low pass filter of these room mics. And these are already built in to the filter section right here of 32C. So this might help tame the room mics just enough. Kind of help to darken it up. Like so. You can also darken up the overheads a little bit.
Where I'm from.
Okay.
It's who I am, where I'm from.
Alright, I'm not going to worry about it too much. But, you know, those cymbals are a little splashy.
Kids still play out in the.
Now listen to this cymbal. I think this one sounded good. See, that one has a darker sound, but these over here, has like a brighter sound to it. Now, what we can do, if you want to ease up on the drums a little bit, then we can always go in and like add more punch or something to the kick and snare. See what I'm doing on time here. 16 minutes. Okay. We're doing pretty good. And then once we get done with a little bit of EQing and compressing, we can bounce it down and be done. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's go back here. Chorus 1.
Knows who.
So this already has a good amount of punch to it. Maybe we'll add some low end on that one.
Saturday night, stay at sidewalk.
That sounds like an under snare, doesn't it?
Ooh,
Okay, there's the top snare, which is what I want. I'm going to take out some boxiness of the snare.
who I am, where I'm from. Kids still
Now, what I'm listening for right now, this is another very important thing that I'll show in other DAWs as well, but you want to worry about, I probably should have done this from the first, but really need to listen to the polarity and how that lines up with your overheads. So let's do this. Let's listen to the snare in the overheads here. Okay, that sounds pretty fat right there, okay? Let's bring in the underside. And what we're listening for, I'll let you listen a little bit more here in a second, but what we're listening for is some girth and some bottom end coming in when we flip the phase. And you can tell if the one sounds relatively better than the other because it just has a fatter sound to it. So the bottom snare notoriously needs to be phase flipped anyways, because usually both mics are facing each other, and that just means the heads of the drums are pushing and pulling in different ways. So let's listen some more. Okay, I mean the kicks sound okay. It's really just that underside snare was messing up.
It's who I am, where I'm from.
All right, let's go ahead and compress the strings. It would just kind of fatten those up a little bit. Let's go to verse 1.
When we pray,
Actually, let's go to chorus.
up in the morning, it still play out in the yard. Everybody knows.
Okay, go. Press this a little bit. All right, now let's really listen to these guitars one more time and let's pan them out a little bit. So we got this rhythm part here, this rhythm part over here, and then the lead stuff can kind of be, kind of depends on where the other strings are. Let's see. Fiddle is to the right, so we'll have the guitar be slightly to the right or the left, just so it's facing a different spot in the stereo field there. It also gives you a really, I feel like I heard something. What did I hear just there? See if we heard a mistake. What is that? Okay, I don't really like that. So what I'm going to do is go in and split it, and then we can do Control 1 to mute. So, yeah, Yeah, that would be fine. Man, I am hearing something funky in here. What else am I hearing? Okay, something in this note, but it kind of is what it is at this point, isn't it? That's fine. All right, let's check it out. See how much time we got left? 8 minutes. It's never a bad thing to mix on a time crunch. It kind of forces you to think about the most important things that need to get done.
Kids still play out in the yard. Everybody knows who their neighbors are. Just a dot on the map where the highway runs. That's who I am, where I'm from. That's who I am, where I'm from.
All right, let's check out this chorus right here. And this
The fire department's all volunteers.
Still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs.
The fire department's all volunteers. Law still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs.
Now, I heard in that background vocal just a little bit of some popping, some pee-pops in the microphone, kind of like what you hear with me sometimes, pee-pop, pee-pop. So I'm going to bring up the low end or the high-pass filter here and just kind of filter some of that out and maybe do some more stuff with it here.
The fire department's all volunteers. Law still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs. The fire department's all volunteers. Law still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs. The fire department's all volunteers. Law still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs.
Okay, let's look at our K14 meter right here. I think the mix is pretty good overall. I'm not going to do a whole lot more to it. I'm getting really picky right here, but I could go into the snare drum and add. Let's add some room reverb, just some more crack here, and then maybe add in some room reverb to the actual drum rooms, because why not? Okay, let's check that out.
That's who I am, where I
All right, cool. It just gives it more depth, I think, with a little bit more reverb. Yeah. Cool.
highway run. That's who I am, where I'm from. That's who I am, where I'm from.
Okay. We've got about 5 minutes left. So what we're going to do is just concentrate on the K14 meter right here. And we are going to get it in the mastering kind of range. So anything from 0 to +4, that's a pretty good level for your pop, country, rock kind of genres. EDM, I mean, a lot of people like to force, higher levels into that stuff. I'm not a big believer in that. I think you should just kind of keep it conservative, because once you get it to Spotify, Apple Music, all that kind of stuff, you're essentially, if it's too loud, they're going to bring it down. And if it's too soft, they're going to bring it up. So you're kind of chained to the algorithm, if you will, at least nowadays. So I just try to keep it in that range, and I know I'm good to go. So there is a lane kind of option here, which will analyze the sound. Let me show you this real fast. This is kind of cool. So it's analyzing the whole song. And we can see that our LUFS, let's see, what's the LUFS here? The check marks mean that we are good for like Amazon Music, Apple Music. Not good for CD, apparently. Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff. True peaks. Max momentary loudness. So our LUFS are hitting between, 15 and 13, somewhere in there. I think the lowest was 18, which is pretty good. We can have custom presets though, so we want this to be loud for Spotify. Okay, we can hit apply. And now we can see that this brought up the overall volume by 0.51 dB. So let's just see what happens if we go to a chorus right here.
Fire departments all volunteers, law still pretty much upheld around here. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs. That's who I...
Okay, not bad. I'm going to push the volume just a little bit so you can see the limiter working. And one LED represents 1 dB of gain reduction, just like the compression settings here. So
I am where I'm from. That's who I am, where I'm from. Kids still play out in the yard. Everybody knows who their neighbors are. Just a dot on the map where the highway runs. That's who I am, where
all right, so you
I'm
can see her on the
who I am,
meter bridge.
where I'm from.
levels going up right here.
Who I am, where I'm from.
All right, so we just have a little bit of leveling going on the master bus, just knocking off 1 dB. The limiter is controlling some of the really high peaks, but the average is staying around that -14 mark. So let's just listen from first chorus into the next verse, and then we'll be done, okay?
They still play out in the yard. Everybody knows who their neighbors are. Just a dot on a map where the highway runs. That's who I am, where I'm from. That's who I am, where I'm from. I'd sidewalks are rolled up tight. Go to church and learn about God's Son. That's who I am and where I'm from. The fire department.
All right, very cool. All right, let me show you how to bounce a track here in Mixbus. So there's a few different ways we can do this. If we make a range selection, we can always right click and say, add range markers. And we can export the song based on the range marker. And that's fine. It's perfectly fine if you have a lot of ranges to work with in a session and you want them all individually exported. But if you just got one song in there, using the start marker and also the end marker is going to be what your session is exported at. I'm not really sure what's going on with this fade. I hadn't really, paid too much attention to the fade out at the end, but let's just check it out. Okay, so it really fades out pretty good about right here. So what I'm going to do is Command A, which selects everything. And then I'm going to use the K key or K keyboard command to chop off everything at the end. And then wherever my mouse is, that's where if I do Command or Control on a PC and then backslash, it's going to bring in a fade wherever my mouse is, according from the end to where my mouse was. So let's bring this fade back, or this end point right here. And it stopped. Okay. So now we're going to do Control E. And in the export window, we have time span, which for us is going to be the session. Channels is going to be the master output 1 and 2. Then our format, I'm going to make it a Redbook Wave 16-bit 44.1. Okay, that way everything I have for all 4 versions of the song is all going to be the same 16-bit 44.1. And I'm going to name this the session name, which is Who I Am, and we're going to call this 32c mix. So it's kind of like the session name, and then the label is kind of blended in together to create the final export name. Okay, so with that done, we are going to analyze exported audio at the end. Let me edit this, make sure it's not normalized, and it's not. Everything looks pretty good, and we're going to export. All right, very good. So our integrated loudness was about 15.5. I mean, I kind of prefer it to be 14 if I can. But I'm not going to hate it if it's not right on the money there. So just for consistency's sake, let's go back. There's nothing telling us that we can't do this. So let's bring up this trim just a little bit more, and let's listen to this chorus.
Way out in the yard, everybody knows who their neighbors are. Just a dot on the map where the highway runs. That's who I am, where I'm from.
Okay, I'm good with that. Let's try this one more time. Yes, I'm going to just override it. And sometimes I will go back and re-export something just to make sure it's within the range that I want. Now it's 13.4, so it was a little bit louder that time. But it's cool. I'm going to leave it just like that. Then we click on open folder, and there is our final wave right there. So look down below. You can listen to this final export along with all the other songs for this month's Daw Wars song. So thanks guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.